The Roman Catholic Church is widely known as the most historically popular, significant, and controversial sect of Christianity. One of the more standout aspects of the Catholic faith is the process, created in 1234, of canonizing saints, which is a process of having a person acknowledged as holy or virtuous, and typically regarded as being in heaven after death. A saint in popular culture is depicted as the human embodiment of perfection, praying, doing good works, the like. However, as Live Science points out, Thomas Crowell has an entire book entitled Saints Behaving Badly: The Cutthroats, Crooks, Trollops, Conmen, and Devil Worshippers Who Became Saints, outlining the opposite imagery of what the traditionally portrayed holy men and women would act like. Some standout behaviors from saints include the repented wealthy playboy St. Augustine's famous line, quote, "God grant me chastity and continence, but not yet." St. Mary of Egypt took it a step further than that and sought out specifically to corrupt innocent young men by sleeping with them, and is said to have seduced an entire ship crew on one particular venture. St. Vladimir sexually assaulted his sister and forced her to live in the home of his mistresses, supposedly a group comprising of several hundred women. St. Vladimir also, along with Saints Olga and Paul, killed people, and many more were known to have extorted, robbed, and done essentially every earthly ailment you can conjure. However, each of the aforementioned men and women were authentic Catholic saints, having repented from their ways and done good for the world as a result. A fake saint is something altogether different. Though there isn't a specific process of removing the title of saint once an individual has been canonized, you can surely get it in motion. As mentioned before, the Catholic Church is rife with historical controversies, and their hierarchical processes continue to be ironed out as the centuries go on. One such flaw in the system was the ease with which saints were given their denotion, as the vetting process was rather loose in centuries past. In the modern era, a special request to investigate a person's life, holiness, spirituality, etc. must be submitted to a Vatican tribunal, and the person must have died and have performed miracles in their life, or have miracles linked to them after their deaths, or have been martyred for the Catholic faith. Though the rules can be somewhat amended on a case-by-case basis, they are generally adhered to, and the final decision is made after a plethora of evidence has been gathered. However, saints of past were created after little evidence was gathered on their life. Some saints didn't even have life to begin with, in that their stories were entirely fabricated, and they never existed. Hence, in part, the case of the fake saints. In 1969, 93 Catholic saints were removed from the liturgical Catholic calendar, meaning that devout Catholics were no longer obligated to celebrate these 93 in order to be deemed as adhering to the faith. Now, not all of these 93 were deemed to be folklore. Perhaps the most famous saint to receive a demotion was St. Nicholas, who was in fact a real person and is a real saint. However, some, such as St. Barbara, were honored for centuries, even though she never existed. St. Barbara was supposedly a wealthy woman who was persecuted by her father for her faith. As she was murdered, her attackers allegedly turned to stone and locusts, and her father was struck by lightning. And although her story checks every box for reaching the status of sainthood, there's less evidence to substantiate Barbara's life than there is Bigfoot's. Another example is that of St. George, who is believed widely to be a personification of an old pagan legend, and is said to have slain a dragon in his life, and upon being beheaded for his faith bled milk instead of blood. Unfortunately, much like with Barbara, there is little historical or scientific evidence to substantiate any of the claims surrounding George, which is a component of sainthood now heavily emphasized by the Catholic Church before they will consider anyone for canonization. And although there isn't much established remedy for weeding out fictional saints from history, the current processes hope to prevent such a problem from reoccurring, because ultimately, all that really goes into a fake saint is a tall tale and a little lack of oversight. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to share it around and hit the subscribe and the like button.